The lunchbox latch popped with a sound you can still hear, and inside was a folded wax paper sandwich, a piece of fruit nobody asked for, and the thing you actually opened the box to find. We knew before the bell for lunch even rang exactly what we were carrying. We knew exactly what it was worth. A Twinkie was worth a favor. A pouch of Capri Sun was worth almost anything on a hot day. The whole table ran on a going rate no adult ever taught us, a rate no adult could even see, a quiet market of foil and cellophane conducted between the milk cartons. Over the next few minutes, we are counting down 10 treats every kid in the 1980s begged for in the cereal aisle, carried like treasure, then haggled over at the table. 10 of them, from the plain workhorse to the one that stopped the whole room. You lived this. Let us open the box. Keep score as we go. Somewhere in this 10 is the exact treat your mother refused to buy, the one you begged for at the end of the aisle until she gave in or until she did not. Somewhere in here is the one you would have traded your whole lunch for. You already know which. The aisle was where it all began, of course. Every one of these got fought for at the grocery store first, in a low negotiation with a parent who had a budget and a plan, before it ever reached the table where the second negotiation waited. Number 1. Gold Standard. 2 of them came sealed in a single sleeve of cellophane, gold on the outside, soft all the way through, and every kid at the table knew a Twinkie the instant that wrapper crinkled. Continental Baking started making them back in 1930 when a man named James Dewar needed a use for shortcake pans that sat idle out of strawberry season. He filled a little sponge cake with cream, then named it off a shoe billboard he passed on the way to a meeting. None of us knew that part. We only knew this was the currency the whole lunch table agreed on. It kept in a lunchbox for what felt like a geological age. It survived being sat on. It came back from the bottom of a backpack, a little flattened, tasting exactly the same, because that reliability was the entire point. A Twinkie was the one treat you could count on being there, which is precisely why it bought things. Half a Twinkie got you a turn. A whole one got you a seat, a secret kept, or the answer to number 6. Nobody wrote the rate down. We all just knew it. The 2-pack mattered more than you would think. 1 to keep, 1 to spend. 1 to eat now. 1 held in reserve for the afternoon. For the moment, the room went quiet. For the moment, someone needed to be talked out of a bad mood. That is where the going rate started. Low, steady, understood by everyone at once. There was exactly one thing that could beat a cake on a warm day. It did not come in foil. It came in a silver pouch. Notice what the Twinkie never was. It was never the treat you loved most. It was the one you trusted most. The stable middle of the whole market. The cake against which every other cake got measured. The flashy stuff came, then went. This one was always in somebody's box, always good for a trade, always exactly what it had been the week before. Number 2. Stab the straw. The silver pouch showed up in American lunchboxes right at the start of the decade, sweating cold against the bread, until by 1981, Capri Sun had gone from a German invention to the thing every kid wanted sitting beside the sandwich. It was already 12 years old overseas by then, sold in Europe under a different spelling since 1969, but in the United States, it landed like something from the future. Juice at the time came in a big can. Juice came in a heavy bottle. This came in a soft foil packet you could hold in one hand, ice cold, portable yours. Then there was the straw. It arrived glued to the back of the pouch in its own little wrapper because the entire ritual lived in what you did next. You freed it. You found the dot. You lined it up. then drove it home in one clean motion. Miss the dot. The straw folded against the foil. Push too hard. The whole pouch answered with a fountain up your wrist. Squeeze it wrong halfway through, it went off like a water balloon. Getting it right on the first try was a small public victory nobody ever congratulated you for. The empty had its own small drama. Fully drained, then blown back up through the straw. It made a pouch you could stomp for a bang that carried across the cafeteria. One loud clap that turned every head, then sent a teacher walking your way. Worth it, most days. On a June afternoon, a cold Capri Sun was worth more than any cake in the room, so the trade rate shifted to match the weather. That is the thing about the table economy. It moved. What bought a seat in December bought nothing in May, while everybody adjusted without a word. From the thing you drank, we go back to a cake, though a cake that asked something of you first. Number 3, unroll it slow. 2 dark cylinders sat waiting in their foil, where the ho-ho asked a quiet question about your patience before you ever tasted it. Hostess had been rolling this one for generations, a thin sheet of chocolate cake wound around a line of cream, coated in more chocolate, then cut into little logs. Slice one across, you got a spiral. A pinwheel you could actually see. That cross-section is what set it apart from every other cake in the box, because the spiral created 2 kinds of kid. The first kind bit straight through the middle, done in 3 bites, and there is nothing wrong with that kind. The second kind peeled the foil off slowly, found the loose end of the chocolate coating, then worked the whole thing apart 1 layer at a time, unwinding the cake into a long flat ribbon before eating any of it. That kid was not hungry. That kid was performing a small ceremony at a cafeteria table, while everyone nearby watched, whether they admitted it or not. The foil did real work too. It kept the coating from melting into a smear against the inside of a warm lunchbox, so the ho-ho showed up intact when a lot of chocolate did not. Intact meant tradable. Tradable meant it held its value into the afternoon. Speaking of things you unwound before you ate them, there was one more, though this one was not a cake at all. It was flat. It was fruit. You could see right through it. The ho-ho also traveled in a 2-pack, which meant it carried the same quiet math the Twinkie did. 1 now, 1 later. 1 eaten, 1 offered up when an offer was needed. A kid with a full 2-pack still sealed had leverage nobody could take away, at least until the second bell. Number 4, peel it off the plastic. In January of 1983, a flat sheet of fruit-flavored candy rolled onto lunchroom tables across the country, so fruit roll-ups turned a snack into a small performance. General Mills had been working on it since the middle of the previous decade under the Fruit Corners name, while the early commercials promised real fruit and fun, rolled up in one, which was 1 part true, 1 part marketing. What was true is that it came pressed onto a see-through sheet, wound into a tube, waiting for you to work it loose in a single piece. That sheet was the whole engineering trick. A company man had figured out a coating that would let the candy peel away clean instead of tearing. So getting it off in 1 unbroken square was half the fun, half the frustration. Rush it, it split. Take your time, you got the full sheet. Then you could fold it, stretch it, press it flat against your palm, wrap it around a finger, or eat it in a spiral off the tip of your tongue. It was less a snack than a project. It ate slow, which mattered in a lunch period that was always too short, because slow made it feel like more than it was. You could make a single roll-up last the whole conversation. A kid with no other treat in the box could still hold court on 1 flat square of fruit, working it a strip at a time while the table talked. From the sweet side, we cross over to the savory. to the one snack that came with a tool, the one that turned a kid into the cook. Every kid eventually pressed one flat against the plastic, peeled it off in a clean square, then stuck it to the roof of their mouth just to feel it hang there. That was not eating. That was research. Number 5, the little red stick. Kraft put its name on this one in the winter of 1980. A shallow tray split into 2 wells, crackers stacked in one side, a pool of orange cheese in the other. Handi-Snacks was cheese and crackers, nothing fancier, but it handed the kid the job, which changed everything about how it felt to eat. You were not being fed. You were assembling. For a kid whose every meal got made by someone else, that small transfer of control was the entire appeal. The tool was the whole soul of it. A short flat spreader, fire truck red, tucked into the package so you could paint the cheese onto each cracker yourself. Nobody spread evenly. You globbed the first 2 crackers, ran short, scraped the well, then finished by eating the last of the cheese straight off the red stick. There was never quite enough cracker for all the cheese. There was never quite enough cheese for all the cracker. Which one you ran out of depended on your technique plus your luck that day. At the table, this one traded in pieces, so the going rate got specific. A couple of loaded crackers went for a roll-up. The whole cheese well, scraped clean, handed over, could pull a Twinkie in a slow week. You learned to price your own lunch by the part, never by the whole, because a snack you built yourself could be broken back down, then sold by the piece. Years later, a bigger version of that same idea would take over the entire table. First though, a cake a kid knew by a different name depending on where they lived. There was even a small trade in the spreader itself, borrowed by the kid across the table who wanted to paint rather than dip. A tool, it turned out, could be currency too. Number 6, one cake, 3 names. Round and flat and sealed in a square of aluminum foil, the Hostess Ding Dong looked like a hockey puck that had been dipped in chocolate, cream hidden in the middle, a glaze over the top. It arrived in 1967, where the foil was not decoration. It was armor against a warm lunchbox, wrapped tight so the glaze reached lunch without gluing itself to everything around it. A kid could drop this one in a bag in the morning, then trust it to survive until noon. Here is the part that splits a room of grown adults to this day. What you called it depended on your zip code. Most of the country said, ding dong. Out on the East Coast, Hostess sold the very same cake as a King Don, earlier still as a Big Wheel, because a company called Drake's had gotten there first with an almost identical treat named the Ring Ding. The lawyers kept the two apart by keeping the names apart. For a brief stretch in 1987, the two companies merged. The names nearly settled. Then they split again. So the confusion came right back. 2 kids could grow up 4 states apart, eating the exact same foil-wrapped puck, then argue for an hour about what it was called, both of them completely right. That regional split is the kind of thing you only notice as an adult, comparing notes with someone who swears you are misremembering your own childhood. You are not. You just grew up on the other side of a trademark line. From the cake you unwrapped, we moved to the one you peeled, out of a cup, under a lid that fought back. The cake never changed. Only the word on the wrapper did, which is a strange thing to carry for 40 years. This certainty about a name that was never the only name. Number 7, chocolate or butterscotch. Hunt's had been selling it in little pull-top cans since the late 1960s, so by the middle of the 80s, the snack pack had finally traded metal for plastic. If you are old enough to remember the metal era, You remember the lid, because that lid drew blood. You hooked a finger under the ring, peeled the thin metal back, then, if you got careless, ran your tongue along the edge, learning a hard lesson about pudding. The company put a cartoon horse in the commercials for the sole purpose of warning kids to slow down. Around 1984, the whole thing went to a plastic cup with a foil top you peeled, replacing the metal lid you used to fight. So a generation stopped cutting itself at lunch. The debates only got louder. Chocolate was the safe pick, also the most traded. Vanilla was for people with no imagination, or so the chocolate kids insisted. Butterscotch had a small, devoted following, everyone else quietly respected. Tapioca divided the table straight down the middle, loved by some, hated by others, nobody neutral. Then the real crisis. You peeled the foil back, only to find no spoon. A lunch packed in a hurry sent the pudding without the one tool that made it edible. So now you were negotiating for a plastic spoon, or drinking your snack pack straight from the cup like an animal. Chocolate ringed around your mouth for the rest of the day. A spoon, borrowed at the right moment, was worth a real trade all its own. From the cup that needed a spoon, we go to a drink that needed nothing. Not a spoon, not a straw, just your fist. There was the deeper move, saved for the very end, running a fingertip around the inside of the cup for the pudding the spoon could not reach, a thing you would never do at home, done freely at a table where everyone else was doing it too. Number 8, the hourglass bottle. By the middle of the decade, General Mills had a colored drink you finished with your hand, so the Squeezit did not come with a straw because it did not need one. It showed up around 1985, tested out in Denver first before it spread, a little figure-shaped bottle of bright sugar water with a twist-off top that opened a narrow spout. You tipped it back, squeezed, then felt the bottle collapse in your grip as the drink went down. Nothing about it was quiet or refined, which was exactly the promise. The color was the sell. Red that was very red, purple that was very purple, orange that glowed a little under the cafeteria lights, none of it pretending to be subtle. It was a drink designed by people who understood precisely what a 9-year-old wanted to be holding, which was something loud, squishy, a little bit ridiculous. It also made a sound. The last inch, squeezed hard, gave you a sputter every table found hilarious, every single time. The bottle had a second life, the marketing never mentioned. Empty, rinsed or not, it became a water pistol. So a warm afternoon could end with half the recess squeezing lukewarm droplets at each other from spent Squeezit bottles. It was barely a drink, mostly a toy, which was the whole appeal. A full one might trade at lunch, but an empty one you kept, because the empty was the fun part. From one bright bottle, we go to the kid who did not bring a single treat, but a whole box of them. The really lucky kid got the mystery one, the flavor with no name printed on the front, the surprise you drank blind while the table guessed along with you. Number 9, the whole box. Since 1960, the McKee family had sold their cakes 12 to a carton, each one wrapped on its own. So Little Debbie built a name on giving you more for less. This is the one that was not really a single treat at all. It was a supply. The oatmeal cream pie came first, 2 soft cookies around a line of cream, while the family pack that carried it was one of the first times a kid could get a whole box of individually wrapped cakes for pocket change. By the 80s, the box had grown a roster. The Nutty Buddy, wafers under peanut butter under a fudge coat, the Swiss Roll, a chocolate spiral of its own, the Star Crunch, chewy yet crisp at the same time, the oatmeal cream pie still anchoring the whole lineup, soft enough to fold in half. A kid could carry any one of these on a normal day. thinking nothing of it. One Little Debbie was ordinary. That is what made the box so different. The kid who carried the box was rich. When a lunch bag opened, out came not one Little Debbie, but the whole carton, still mostly full. So the table rearranged itself around that kid for the entire period. The going rate collapsed in their favor because they had the supply while everyone else had only the demand. A single Swiss roll from a full box bought more goodwill than a lone Twinkie ever could. For one lunch, that kid ran the market. Then there was the one that did not just trade well, it made the whole table stop. The box came with a cost the kid felt too. Everyone remembered who shared, plus who did not. So the kid with the full carton was quietly deciding, one cake at a time, exactly what kind of table it was going to be. Number 10. The Yellow Tray. In 1988, Oscar Mayer slid a divided plastic box into the grocery cooler. Meat and cheese and crackers, each sitting in their own little wells, built to look like a tiny frozen dinner. The Lunchables had arrived, so nothing at the table was quite the same afterward. This was not a snack you unwrapped, then ate. This was a snack you constructed, in public, in front of everyone, stacking your own tiny sandwiches at your own pace, a small event with an audience. The early ones were simple, just the meat, the cheese, the round crackers, no drink pouch, no dessert yet, because those came later in the 90s. Simple did not matter. What mattered was the tray, the compartments, the sense you had been handed a kit, a job, plus a little bit of theater. Every kid without one watched every kid with one build lunch. The watching is the whole story. The Lunchables kid was not eating so much as presenting. There was even a right way to do it. Crackers first, then meat, then cheese, then the whole thing pressed together slow, so the audience could follow along. Rush the build, you wasted the moment. You only got one lunch to do it. By now, you know the going rate was never really about the food. It was about being seen. The Twinkie bought a seat because having one meant you had something to give. The full box made a kid the center of the table for a day. The Lunchables sat at the very top because it did the thing every treat in that lunchbox was secretly for. It made you, for one lunch period, the kid everyone wanted to sit next to. That was the trade all along. Not cake for cake. Belonging, paid out in foil and cellophane, one lunch at a time. The bell went, so the trading floor emptied in under a minute the way it always did. What got left behind told the whole story. A drained silver pouch, gone flat and light. The straw still standing in the dot. A square of foil smoothed out, folded into a smaller square out of pure habit. A pudding cup scraped so clean it looked washed. The red stick, licked once, then abandoned. A Squeezit bottle on its side, still sputtering a last drop onto the table. Then the box itself, the metal one with the latch, snapping shut on nothing but wax paper, plus the piece of fruit you never did eat. We carried those boxes in one hand, a whole economy in the other, spending it all before the second bell, every single day, without once thinking of it as anything other than lunch. Somewhere, a kid is closing a very different box today, where the treats have different names. But the table is the same table. The going rate is still measured in the same thing it always was. You knew that rate cold once. Some part of you still does. You could not name the rate now if someone asked you to write it down. Nobody could then either. But hand you a foil-wrapped cake across a table, watch what happens. You would still know, without a word, roughly what it was worth, plus exactly what you would want back.